Today we are going to look at mastering in music production. I'm gonna show you how to go from this one to this one. So stay tuned to get to know my master chain a little bit better, and I'm gonna walk you through every single detail I do on my masters. So quick disclaimer, I'm by no means a professional mastering engineer. Those people work in the industries for a long period of time, they have trained ears, they have the perfect treated room for mastering, and all they do is actually only mastering. That's why they are called mastering engineers. It's always recommended to go into your master with a quieter mix, I'd say, like -6 decibel is the good point, at least the point where I'm starting my master at, and then you can just gain stage up your track as you progress with your master chain, right? So with that being said, let's dive into Ableton and let's check out what I use on my master chain to enhance my mix even further. Let's go. Alright, so here is my track called Battlefield, and always make sure to start your master on the loudest part of the mix, and always make sure that your mix is already finished. Means on your master chain, you just got your master track to work on with, right? So you can't really change the volume levels of different instruments, or at least you shouldn't. That's why people make pre-masters as well. Means that it's a bounced track of the pre-master version with no master chain on it, obviously. And then they're gonna load the track into a new project and start the master with the pre-master in the track already. I didn't do it here because my laptop is strong enough to handle it all, and I want to do a few adjustments, although I know it's not recommended, but hey, that's the way I work, so I should be fine, right? So this is what the track sounds like without the master chain. Right, let's open up the master, and I'm going to activate all my plugins here in the chain. I'm going to deactivate them all in a row and then activate it one by one so you can see what I'm actually doing. So the first one being a clipper, and this one is just, it's on the master safety preset, as you can see, and this one is just to catch the peaks of certain instruments or certain peaks at all, so the compressor does not get too overloaded with peaks from different instruments. It's a little bit difference in the loudness of the track, but that's fine. It's just catching the peaks. Next up, I'm going to add a compressor, and this one is my master compressor, the one I use on all of my masters. This one is called Shadow Hills Mastering Compressor. You can use an SSL compressor, you can use even the Ableton Glue compressor. It will do just fine for you. That's just fine details on this one, because I like the sound of this particular compressor. So let's see without. And as you can hear, it's not doing a lot, but it brings out the quieter parts a little bit. That's what a compressor usually does, right? At all, it's not really recommended to push the mastering compressor too hard anyway, because it will ruin your track in most of the cases. Alright, next up we got an equalizer, and this one is just a regular FabFilter Pro Q3, and it's doing some minor adjustments. It's just frequencies I heard where I'm not really certain if I want them in the final master, so I took them out because I prefer using like subtractive EQs instead of boosting with EQs. I always do that, like on all of my tracks. And when you add those tiny adjustments, just one by one, it will sum up in the end and the results will be incredible, you know? Okay, next one is a Gullfoss Master. That's an AI EQ. It's just set to like 8% of tame and 2.7% recover. It decreases the sub a little bit, tiny little bit, and increases the higher frequency spectrum. I'm not really overdoing it with the Gullfoss because I'm not certain if it's any good though, but I have to do some research on that anyway. So next up is an imager, and this one's from Ozone. And what I'm doing here is I'm putting the sub frequencies into mono. 40 to 110 Hertz is going to be full mono. Then the lower mids are going to be a little more mono-ish. And from there on, the highs and the high mids are going to be more stereo. And all in all, this plugin also tells you what phase you have. If the little tiny blue icon here goes to +1, the phase is good. Decent. Next up is the most famous Oxford inflator, and this one is just adding saturation and loudness to the mix. It's kind of a distortion saturation plugin, and I'm not overdoing it with this plugin as well. It's just set to 28%. We can listen to it as we go. And the final plugin I'm gonna add is a limiter. This one is just going out on 0 decibels, so it doesn't clip. And I'm gonna add a Voxengo span master here as well to analyze the frequency spectrum further. I can also check my loudness with this plugin. If you take a look at the LUFS section here, and you can see how loud your track actually is. So as you can see, my track is -6 LUFS. That's pretty decent for a bass house track like this. You can go louder if you want, then you have to push the limiter more, but you will also add more saturation and distortion, and it might sound a little bit distorted in the end. So I found +1.6 gain on the limiter is enough to make this track really pump through the speakers. Now, as a final thing, we're gonna take the master chain away, take a listen to it without the master chain, and then add it into the mix, and we're gonna see what the mastering chain did to the track overall. As you can hear, the master did a little difference here. It sounds fuller, it sounds more saturated, it sounds crispier, it sounds louder, so perfectly fine for an EDM track like this one. If you have any questions about mastering at all, make sure to hit me up. You can find me on Instagram here. And until next time, bye bye.